I am Carrie Kaufman. I am in San Diego, and I'm joined here today by my guest, Ami Kassar, who is from the East Coast. You'll have to tell me where again on the East Coast, but currently sitting in
Philadelphia.
Sacramento. Philadelphia. All right. So Ami is the founder and CEO of Multifunding, and we're here today to talk about your strategy for business financing. And this is a bit of a preview to an event we have coming up soon. Hey, Erica, thanks for joining us today from Southern California. We're doing a bit of a preview today of an event that Ami and I are both speaking at on Thursday called CEO Mornings. And that's a rapid learning style event where three speakers, we're going to have a speaker on strategy. That was me, talking about how to scale without losing your mind or your bottom line. We're going to have a speaker on financing, which is Ami, who you're going to learn from today. And he's talking about your strategy, your financing strategy for growth, and sharing lots and lots of SBA tips. So you're going to be way more detailed than we're going to have time to get into today. And we'll also have a speaker on people, more specifically, growing through borderless talent, and that's with David Nielsen. So the link is in the comments if you want to register to join us for that. But otherwise, like I said, for now, if you're just now joining us, leave us a comment and let us know where you're joining from. And Ami, let's get started. How are you today?
Love it. Great. Thanks for having me. Always fun to be with you, Carrie.
Yes, it is. I agree. Well, so I've learned a lot from you about business financing. In fact, before we even met in person, I was following your work. I think maybe we met at a conference, but we didn't really know each other well. But I started following your blog, your ink pieces that you were doing. And then early on in the pandemic, when nobody knew what was going on with stimulus and EIDL and PPP and all these different things, you were the go-to resource and still are for all things business financing. So first of all, thanks for your abundance and sharing all that. But I just wanted to let everybody know the wealth of knowledge that you bring to the table here today. So when it comes to business financing, give us a few tips. One being, how should a business decide when the timing is right? Like, should we get financing? Should we just bootstrap it?
So there are a lot of loaded questions there.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's the way I roll.
The first step in it all, I think, is to think that financing strategy is building a business or running a business is a little bit like running a football team. And you don't win in football without good offense and defense. And your financing strategy or your balance sheet should be prepared at any times for good offense or defense. So, I like to see business with a line of credit, not to go use to buy a house in Hawaii or a vacation or a Ferrari or something, but to have liquidity there to plan for the unexpected.
Yeah.
And I like to see a business in a great shape to prepare for opportunities that come up that you may or may not know that are around the corner today. So financing strategy is about creating yourself and setting yourself up with the most flexibility as possible.
How does a business, I see a line of credit would be flexible. Otherwise, when it comes to lendability, how would a business go about positioning themselves to have that flexibility or to create those options when the opportunities arise?
So one of the things to think about at any time is your business is in a certain state and businesses change. So your business today, making it up, term debt, generally speaking, I don't recommend taking on term debt unless you have a strategy to pay it back.
Okay.
Term debt is it should be tied to specific investments that you plan on making.
Right.
Line of credits or liquidity should be there to help you plan or manage against the unexpected or for your needs. So sometimes I'll see a business that should have a line of credit, or I like to see line of credits at roughly 10% of top line sales or 85% of AR and 50% of inventory. Sometimes businesses are well underlined per se, and that's not a good thing. The other thing is understanding how much you could borrow on term debt. So one of the questions I like to ask people, Carrie, and I think it's an interesting coaching exercise, is I call it the Uncle Joe question. let's just say Uncle Joe gave you a gift of $1 million today with one condition. You had to use the money and invest in things in your business that you're not otherwise doing. And if you don't do it, he's going to take it back in a year. Almost invariably, I'm yet to meet somebody you can't come up with what they're planning to do with that $1 million. There's things they would like to invest in because I've just taken away all the other notions. Well, if I had more money, I'd hire more salespeople, or I'd add a new store, or I'd go acquire that business, or I'd add in that infrastructure, or that whatever it is. And then the next question is, why aren't you doing that?
All these ideas are a pile of good intentions.
Money is not always, but often the easiest thing to solve for. When people call us, it's once their strategy is right, or once they have a clear path or vision about what they need the money for, and if they have a path to making more money for that than it's going to cost them, the money's pretty easy. The challenge is getting to that point.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying then is well, my belief has always been it's easiest to get the money when you don't really need it. And what I think you're saying is when you want it, when you're not relying on it to meet your current obligations, you have a purposeful strategy that you're investing in, the money comes pretty easily. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you got to have it needs to be tied to a plan.
Right.
That you believe in. If you believe in it, the bank will likely believe in it.
Okay. All right. So what kinds of, before I go on, I just wanted to leave a note for people who are joining live. First of all, leave a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We'd just love to see how far this reaches, but feel free to ask your questions as well. We'll get through as many as we can in the next few minutes today. So if you've got a specific financing question, go ahead and type that into the comments wherever you're watching from. But Ami, anything in particular that a business CEO, maybe your CFO, should be asking themselves? Things they should need to be considering, or maybe things they need to be asking you, right? What should they do in their due diligence?
So I think that the key thing about that we like to see businesses think through is that every business needs a goal, right? So what I like to say is, what's your top line and bottom line goal for your business in 3 years from now? Whatever it might be, okay? Now, it's highly unlikely that you're not going to reach that goal without making investments in your business. You're going to probably have to hire more people, or add more functions, or more capabilities, or more equipment, or add new stores, or whatever it might be. So do you track the investments you're making in your business? Do you understand how they're performing? And do you have a game plan to follow through on them? So we like to see people have an investment scorecard. What investments did you make last year? And just some sense of how those investments are going and how you're doing. Then whatever the number is of investments you made last year, say you invested $100,000, but it could just easily be $1 million or 10 million. It doesn't matter. Let's call it $100,000. Well, is that rate of investment enough to reach your goals? Or if you accelerated your rate of investment, what would you do with that? And would that help you exceed your goals or meet your goals faster? So,
and you're actually going to be sharing this. There's a template that you use, right, as a scorecard at CEO meetings on Thursday. Yeah,
that's going to be a great event on Thursday, and it's all we call it the velocity matrix. So, how big, how fast, and how much risk do you want to take?
It's a really powerful tool. I saw you present it a while back, and it sounds so simple when you say it. Well, you need a goal and you need a plan. So, business coaching 101. But yet when I saw you present it and watching the faces of the audience, like, it was such a light bulb moment. And they're highly intelligent, successful CEOs already, right? But just really having thought through it to the level of detail that you get people to approach their business finances. That is the difference in making it strategic versus making it an afterthought, which in my experience is how so many businesses approach it.
Yeah, you're going to hire salespeople if that's your strategy. Should you hire 10, 5, 3, or 1?
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Brian, thanks for joining us, by the way. Just saw him say hello. Wanted to say hi back.
It doesn't make sense to add equipment. Do you understand what you could borrow? You know how many Fortune 500 companies have no debt, Carrie?
I guess 0.
Like 5.
Yeah? Okay.
almost all of them built it. Now, I'm not saying debt is the only tool, but done well, it can be an incredibly strategic tool.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to think about.
Are there any things that CEOs or CFOs should avoid or watch out for when they're in their financing strategy?
Yeah, well, you have to pay careful attention to the lien structure and the guarantees and make sure you understand what you're getting to. The other general tip that I think is extremely important is to concentrate on the cash flow. I like to see, again, it's tied to that point of making sure that you've got the greatest flexibility. So sometimes people purely focus on the APR as the one metric that makes them decide. Like if the one loan is 5% and the other loan is 7%, making up those numbers, they're automatically going to point at the 5%. Oh, I need the lowest rate. Well, it might be that the 5-year loan, you have to pay back in a year, and the 7% loan you can pay back over 10 years, and the monthly payment is much smaller. So it all comes back to the point of maximizing your balance sheet to give you the most flexibility so that you can make moves, offensive and defensive moves as you need to.
Yep. I grew up in a real estate family. My dad used to say, people can't afford a sales price, they can afford a payment.
Right.
Like the prices are relevant. All that matters is can you pay for it?
Right.
So the terms make a big difference. So right now, and by the way, welcome. We've got a handful of people joining and commenting. Let us know where you're watching from, and if you have a financing question, feel free to type it in. But one of my questions for you, Ami, is things are changing in our economy, right? It's not, if you watch the news too much, it's not projected to get a lot better over the next year or two. So what should businesses do now to prepare for the market conditions ahead?
Yeah, so there's two key points, I think. Change always creates opportunity. Sometimes it's just hard to see it. Okay. But it's tied to the points I was making on earlier. You want to make sure you've got the biggest line of credit possible, so you can be ready for the unexpected. Okay. And you would like to see, I think, that your monthly payments are the lowest possible to give you the greatest amount of flexibility. So if you can take your debt and say you have monthly payments of $30,000, and if there's a way to restructure those and make your monthly payments $10,000, that's a good strategy at this time. So it's all about maximizing for flexibility.
That makes sense. We do have a question here from Boy Knock on LinkedIn. Says, when do you know it's the right time to grow your business?
So, boy, I'd be happy if you wanted to have an offline conversation with you about that. But it's one of the things to just do is what's restraining your growth. So, when is the right time to grow your business? What do you think is restraining your growth? And then do you have a reasonable plan around those growth? The other thing is, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of people coach around 10x growth or 100x growth. It's sometimes the tortoise wins the race. It's perfectly acceptable, in my opinion, to grow steadily and methodically. What are the few things you want to test? If you prove those things, what would let you do those next things? So I think you should always be thinking about growing your business, but being on the Inc. 5000 list isn't necessarily have to be the goal. It's how do you prove out things in a sustainable and organic fashion to keep going.
Yeah. I think it's a great point that growth is about removing constraints, right? So how much money would it cost to solve a problem, right? If you could throw money at it, what would it take to solve it? And what would that open up? What opportunities would that create if that constraint no longer existed? If that's a talent constraint or a technology constraint?
Don't focus on the money, understand what the issues are, and then what money would be required to solve it.
Exactly, yeah. Any other words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our viewers that are either watching this live or catch the recording later on?
Stay flexible, stay open-minded, listen to different perspectives, get different opinions, get some mentors, get a coach like Kerry Kaufman.
What a great suggestion.
Get different perspectives. And the more you can stay open-minded, the better you are.
Yeah. I think it's also worth noting that not all SBA lenders are created equal, right? Is that true that they could go to multiple different banks and not be
100%.
offered the same programs or terms? So
different answer from different people. And sometimes you have to kiss a bunch of frogs to meet a prince.
Yeah. Let me see. Another question that came in here. If I don't like debt and ask for funding, what are some alternative ways to finance for growth?
Well, one question is, why don't you like debt? And then understanding the trade-offs. So the first issue is, how much money do you need and for what? And then what are the different ways to get it and the different pros and cons of it? So you might not like debt, but what would you rather have, debt or sell 70% of your company? I'm making it up. So everything has a trade-off, and those are the decisions that you have to decide.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought. Like the fastest alternative is to get an investor, and that's not always what a lot of business owners really really want. Not necessarily always what it's cracked up to be.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Any final thoughts? Closing thoughts?
Come see us at CEO Mornings on Thursday. It's going to be a great event. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a Thursday, which is the 30th of June at 9 o'clock Pacific time, 9 to 11 Pacific time. 3 speakers, jammed full. We promise your pen will be moving the whole time. You're going to want to take notes. So hope that you can join us there. Check the link in the comments wherever you're watching this from. There's a link there to register for that event, and it's free. We'd love to have you participate. If you got value out of this interview, we'd like for you to share it as well. So thank you for your time today, Ami. Thank you to everybody who joined us live or typed in their questions or comments. We appreciate that. And have a great day. Thanks again, Ami. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye. See you, Carrie.
Thanks for watching.